You know, a lot of people have this assumption that California is this communist state, and it's totally run by the Democrat Party. Firstly, California is not communist. And whilst a lot of the major metropolitan cities have Democratic elected officials, if you look at statewide, there's a lot of Republican congressional elected officials. The minority leader of the Republican Party, who's hoping that he'll become the majority leader in a week's time, is an elected official from the state of California. So what the Republican Party has been cleverly able to do is create this narrative that California is this Democrat state and no Republicans have a voice. When in fact, if you look at the congressional delegation, Republicans have a very outsized voice in the state. Sure, it's not the majority, but go and look at California and Texas. You probably have fewer Democratic congressional elected officials in Texas than you have Republicans. Elected officials in California. Both are huge states in population. The same is true in Florida. Very few statewide elected Democrats, whether it be in Congress. There's only one statewide elected Democrat in the state of Florida, Nikki Fried, the agricultural commissioner. That's it. Look, I said this, I don't know if I said it publicly, but I've definitely said it. The road to whoever is going to become the majority leader, whether it remains Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, or it becomes Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, the road to controlling the House of Representatives runs directly through California. It really does. Californians should know this. And there's a very, very competitive congressional district. The 40th district in California. There's a candidate who I want you to support. Dr. Asif Mahmood. Let me tell you why I want you to support Dr. Mahmood for Congress. He shares your values. Now some of you are going to go, oh, that's not really a voting issue. Sharing values. Your current Congresswoman Young Kim, a lot of people have said that she's a moderate. I kid you not, a lot of people have said Congresswoman Young Kim is a moderate Republican. Oh, she's a moderate. Congresswoman Young Kim. Hear me out, District 40. Congresswoman Young Kim voted against the American people having a right to purchase contraceptions. Let me repeat that for you. Congresswoman Young Kim, a supposed Republican moderate in the House of Representatives, voted against all of us being allowed to purchase contraception in this country. Now, is that really a moderate position to be opposed to contraception? That's about as fringe and extreme as it gets. And she knows it too. Let me tell you why. Constituents in this district say they almost never see her. This is a majority-minority district. Very diverse congressional district. And she never talks to anyone in the district. This is what people are saying. So of course you can create a narrative. The Republican National Party can create a narrative for this congresswoman that she's somehow some moderate. But when it comes to her voting record, there's nothing moderate about it. She doesn't support same-sex marriage. She doesn't support a woman having a right to choose what she does with her own body. She voted for every tax cut that Donald Trump proposed. She's horrible on the environment. She voted against Green New policies. She voted against the infrastructure bill. Where's the moderation here? Where's the moderate Congresswoman Young Kim? Look, she's voting just like Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia. Only she's a congresswoman in California, in a majority-minority congressional district, voting like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. And she has this Republican media apparatus that's created this narrative that she's a moderate. But you look at her voting record, there's nothing moderate about it. And you know what? This year, her constituency is caught up to this ruse that she's been running. Asif Mahmood is really challenging the narrative that the Republican Party has created. And now all of a sudden you see your congresswoman out in the district. People are going, wow, we finally see her. But you notice what she's not doing. She's not taking or answering any of your questions. She's having very choreographed and staged events with hardline Republican staffers in attendance. She's not talking to local press or media. So she's still trying to play the narrative game that she's a moderate by carefully choreographing what her constituents see when she's out in the community. But Congresswoman, this time is not going to work. Dr. Asif Mahmood is very, very inspiring. He knows the ins and outs of the healthcare system, which is going to be good. You know, I think if we get more doctors, nurses, and physicians in general who are progressive, we might just finally get Medicare for all. We might actually get quality healthcare in this country. Imagine that. Now, with Congresswoman Young Kim's voting record, if legislation like Medicare for all came up, thousands of constituents in her district would benefit. There's thousands of constituents in her district that are low income, don't have quality, affordable health care, may not even have quality, affordable housing. That's a very distinct possibility in that district. And yet she chooses to vote against the things that would benefit you. So when people say, oh, shares values doesn't rank high on my priority list, inflation does. Well, if someone is voting against capping insulin costs at $35 a month, when they know people in their community are paying thousands of dollars out of pocket for insulin, is that someone who shares your values? No. It most certainly is not. My advice is this. If you want someone who is actually going to give you what you deserve in that district, because another reason why she doesn't come around and talk to the constituents very much is because she knows that she's neglected her constituents. Any type of infrastructure that's moving into that district, it's not because she voted for it. This is another thing a lot of Republican congressional candidates are doing. They're taking credit for infrastructure projects, but they all voted against the infrastructure bill. You know, everybody in this entire country, regardless of party, has been talking about infrastructure. Presidents have been talking about that for centuries. Needing to invest in large scale our infrastructure. I want you to think, who got it done? President Biden, Vice President Harris, they got it done. And what political party helped them get it done? It most certainly wasn't the Republican Party. Unanimously, go and check the record. Don't take my word for it. Unanimously voted against the infrastructure bill. Now they came up with all kind of wacky reasons why. It was too costly. Green technology is not profitable. All kind of wacky reasons. But they voted against it. And now that groundbreaking on some infrastructure projects are happening, especially next year. You watch how many Republicans go to these groundbreaking events next year and stand outside pretending that they cared about you. When they had a chance to really show that they cared about you, they chose to spit in your face. Quite literally, almost. Congresswoman Young Kim has been getting away with this bamboozlement of pretending that she's a moderate and a perfect fit for her district. After her election, she vanished on you. She turned into the invisible woman and you never saw her again. And that's when the National Republican Party went to work choreographing this narrative that she was a moderate. They used the fact that she's a woman of color to help create the narrative. But women of color in her community and in her district are struggling the worst. When it was time to give women who were struggling with children a tax credit, you remember the childhood extended tax credit that lifted so many of her constituents out of poverty. When it was in existence, you know, in order to get that in there, the Democrats had to make a concession and sunset it. It was one of those things where the Republicans demanded that we not spend the money. And if we do, what if the program is such a failure? We should sunset it. And a sunset just means that you put a certain date on it when it'll expire. And so the Democrats had to do that. All the data is out. Millions of women were lifted out of poverty due to the extended child tax credit. Now, when it was time to renew it, I want you to know this. When it was time to renew it, everybody had the data. It was a good investment. Women were getting ahead. It was good for America. When it was time to renew it, with all the data out, you know what the Republican Party said? They said, we're not going to renew this. And you're never going to believe the reason why. They said people were using the extended child tax credit money to buy drugs. This is what they think of the American people. Here it was a program that was helping Americans fight inflation. And they said, you Americans out here are buying drugs with that extra child care tax credit money. You're drug addicts. They literally called the American people drug addicts. I really like what one woman did. She took a picture inside her refrigerator before the child tax credit. Then she took a picture when she received her first child tax credit. And her refrigerator was full of vegetables, tofu, fruit juices, baby formula. And then she took a recent photo because she hasn't received a check since the end of summer. And her refrigerator was empty again. She said, I never purchased any drugs and put them in my refrigerator. That money was going towards food. And when food costs being so high right now, how the hell is the Republican Party going to talk to me and lecture the American population about caring about inflation when they got rid of the child tax credit that was helping so many people feed their families. You know, I don't know why the Democrats are not talking about this. Please do. You have 7 days left. That program lifted millions of people out of poverty. And when it was time to extend it, those bastards who only care about rich people said that we were all drug addicts. Asif Mahmood is running for Congress in the 40th District. I need you to fill out your ballot. Take 15 minutes, top to bottom, front to back. And you elect Dr. Mahmood. You do something that's going to help you. Because all your current Congresswoman is doing is aiding and abetting the super rich. The 0.0001%. You know, the former president is back out on the campaign trail, and he's saying something that's completely factually true about the Republican Party. They don't have any solution for inflation. Their solution to every crisis, regardless of what it is in America, has always been to cut rich people's taxes. You know what their solution to inflation is? Cut taxes on the rich. Eliminate the estate tax. You know, the really, 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 really wealthy people, when one of their loved ones passes away, they have to pay a small little tax to the government to fund the comments. Well, rich people don't like that they have to pay an inheritance tax. And so because the Republican Party is pretty much in bed with wealthy people every night, they want to do away with the estate tax too. Don't let them starve you out in the 40th Congressional District. This is what they're trying to do. I kid you not. Out on the West Coast, the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, said they had a blue state list. You know we definitely made the list out in Washington State, right? We're dark blue, so we definitely were on the list. You know, after this election, I'm going to sue that son of a bitch for what he did. Oh yeah, I'm going to file a lawsuit on behalf of Washington State. This is breaking news. I'm going to sue him. I know exactly what happened, so I'm going to sue. See you in court. Anyway, let's not get distracted. They're trying to starve you out. Don't let them starve you out. Your congresswoman doesn't give a damn about you. She vanished and turned invisible upon her election. Now she's reappeared. She won't take any questions from the media. And I'm not talking about national media. I'm talking about the little local papers in her community. Because they would ask her, Congresswoman, where have you been? We haven't seen you the past 2 years. What have you got done for your district? So because she doesn't want to answer those questions, she's holding stage choreographed Republican National Committee events. The reason why I call them Republican National Committee events is because they are Republican staffers who are pretending to be residents of the community in attendance. I kid you not. You're going to ask me, how do you know this? I know quite a bit. And I know they've gone out of their way to try to say that Congresswoman Young Kim is a moderate, simply because she happens to be a woman of color. But like I said earlier, the constituents are on to this ruse. Dr. Asif Mahmood in the jungle primary overwhelmingly received the majority of the vote, sending them to the general election or head-to-head matchup. Now, the Republican Party is definitely investing a lot of money in this district. This is a seat they want to maintain. They definitely want to keep a do-nothing congresswoman in a majority-minority community representing that district. You know why? Because they don't want you in that constituency group to have anything. And so if you have a minority representing you who isn't doing shit for you, it's kind of hard for anyone to criticize you. Because then they'll say, oh, they're just criticizing this person because she's a minority Republican. She's a female Republican. No, she's not doing shit for her constituency. Give you a challenge. In the 40th district, find me 5 people in that district who can tell me 3 things that Congresswoman Young Kim has accomplished. Doesn't have to be major. I mean, she could have voted to cap insulin costs at $35 a month, but she didn't. You could have said that. But she didn't even do that for her constituents. She could have voted to leave contraceptions alone for her constituents. You know, things like condoms, morning after pills. They're already being sold. But she voted against that too. So find me 3 things that 5 people are thrilled about in that district that their congresswoman has done for them. That's why Dr. Asif Mahmood is on fire. Look, this is a moderate to Republican-leaning district. And a lot of moderates and Republicans are saying, this woman doesn't do anything for us. We're voting for Dr. Asif Mahmood this time around. I'm hearing that a lot. So hopefully that means that she's done. That this charade and facade that the Republican Party perfectly choreographed hopefully is done and you get what you really need in that district. You definitely will get more than what you got, which is zilch. So make sure that you take 15 minutes. You find Dr. Asif Mahmood's name on the ballot. And you circle it in. Get what you deserve. You know, I said this about a district in Texas too, where the Republican Party has a Latina as a congresswoman. Same thing. She disappeared after she got elected. She went invisible. And she hasn't done shit for the district. This is what their new strategy is. Find minority, hopefully women. Put them in districts that are majority minority. And then make sure that they give them district nothing. It's going to be hard for a leftist or a progressive to criticize a minority Because they'll say, oh, you're just being racist because she's a Republican minority. You know, they can play that game with a lot of people, but not me. I like to tell the community, the constituents, if you're getting a good deal from your representatives, listen to me. You're not getting a good deal with Congresswoman Young Kim. Now, if you don't get anything under Dr. Asif Mahmood, in 2 years you can vote again. But right now you're not getting shit. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Sometimes they say, what do I have to lose? In this case, nothing. You've received nothing. Dr. Asif Mahmood is on record saying he's going to vote for Medicare for all. With thousands of people without health care, at least you would get health care. That's huge. Dr. Asif Mahmood is on record saying he would codify roads, restoring women back to being first-class American citizens and not second-hand slaves to males. That's huge. So right there, the distinction is night and day. Take the time to support people who share your values. Asif Mahmood shares your values. Congresswoman Young Kim shares wealthy people's economic interests, which is their value, to not pay any taxes, ever. You literally have someone for the people, and you have someone for the profits of the tiny few. This is easy, California. Get what you deserve. You're in the 40th district. If we flip this seat, there's a strong chance that we expand our majority in the House. We avoid having a coward become the speaker. And I don't use that word lightly. When someone doesn't want to investigate a historic attack on the nation's capital, when they don't want to take that serious because they're too scared of a lunatic and what they might say on social media about them, you then become a coward in my book. Let's make sure we keep a real patriot, a real American hero as our Speaker of the House, and Nancy Pelosi. If Asif Mahmood gets elected, you're going to get something. And that's certainly better than nothing. Because that's where you currently are sitting at the moment, District 40. You have nothing. And that's why your congresswoman doesn't want to take any questions from the local media. How are you running for office and you're 7 days from an election? Think about this. You see Asif Mahmood taking all types of questions from the local media. How are you a week out from an election, and you refuse to sit down with the local media in your district, what is Congresswoman Young Kim hiding? Why is she scared of the local media? I'm not asking her to go on CNN or MSNBC. She can't sit and go and have a productive interview with the local newspaper? This is crazy. She's scared of her local press, and she's scared of her constituents. And the only reason why she would be in fear of both her constituents and the local media is because they know she hasn't done anything for them. And she's concerned about being asked why she hasn't. It simply hasn't been her priority. Cutting taxes for the very, very wealthy has. Seeing as that 99.99% if you don't fall into that category in the district, you're not her priority. Get something out of the deal. You're Americans. Get something out of your country. You will. Vote Dr. Asif Mahmood.